The Dorian mode made simple. In yesterday's video we looked at the Mixolydian mode, and as we discussed, words like Mixolydian, Dorian, Lydian, Locrian are quite complicated, exotic words, difficult to pronounce, difficult to spell, so the assumption can be that they're difficult to understand. The first time I'd heard of the Dorian mode, for example, was when I'd bought the guitar tab book for Joe Satriani's Surfing with the Alien. You know, even the beginning of that album, which seemed impossible to play at the time, and that's one of the easier things on the album to play. So the assumption was, because players like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, who were technically proficient players, who were using all these new techniques, sweep picking, tapping. I know Joe Satriani doesn't sweep pick, for those who want to pick fault. But technically proficient players who could play at the speed of light. The assumption was that playing at the speed of light, knowing the modes, went hand in glove, and that's not the case. You can use the Dorian mode when you may be a limited player to great effect. So quite simply put, the Dorian mode is when we use the second chord in the scale. We use that first, starting on what you call the second degree of the scale. So if we were in E minor Dorian, them chords would be from D major. So D, E being the second degree of the scale. Now, one of the simplest examples of the Dorian mode used in pop music is Wicked Game by Chris Isaacs, and it goes like this. What a wicked game to play, to make me feel this way. What a wicked thing to do, to let me dream of you. Now that's fairly straightforward. B minor, A to E. And it has quite an emotionally intense feel about it. Yet it's just a 3-chord song. So B minor to A is fairly, we've got a million and one different songs. I Want It All starts with B minor to A. Now, the assumption could be that it's in B minor. B minor is relative to D major, so what are the chords in that scale? D, E minor, F sharp minor, G, A, B minor, C sharp diminished. So there isn't an E major chord in that key. It's an E minor, which sounds completely different if we use. Not quite the same, is it? So where does that E come from? Did Chris Isaacs just think, well, you know what, B minor, A and E are in the beginner chord book, and I think they sound nice together, so I'll use them? I doubt that very much. I think somebody knows what they're doing here when they're writing, and because it's emotionally intense, and if you know that the Dorian mode gives you that feel, then you will know how to use it. So if it's Dorian mode, it will be in the key of A, because B is the second degree. So what chords do we have in the key of A? We have the A chord, which is in the song, B minor, which is in the song, C sharp minor, D, and E. So there's the E chord. So B minor, A to E is B minor Dorian. So that kind of proves that it doesn't have to be difficult, but you've learned there that it has an emotional, intense feel about it. Now, another example is Green Day's Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Now that starts off, I walk this lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's on me. Da, 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 da. Now, E minor to G could be, and even to D, could be screaming at you that this is in E minor, which is relative to G. So therefore, it's a foregone conclusion. but that would be wrong because the chords that are in the key of G are G, A minor again, not an A minor. So where's this A coming from? Well, if we're going to assume that it's in Dorian, E minor being the second degree of the scale, that would mean that we were actually in D major. What are the chords in D major? D, which is in the song, E minor, which is in the song, F sharp minor, G, which is in there, and A, which is in there. So straight away we have all the chords in the verse that are in E minor Dorian. So there you go, it's in E minor Dorian, and it does have again, it's kind of emotionally intense, a little bit more than what just your minor scale is. Now when we come to the chorus and it goes from C, my shadows, the one that walks beside you, it's starting with C. Now within the key D major, C is not there, is it? So my thinking would be that it is in E minor scale. If you look at the key of E minor relative to G, G, E minor, B minor, C and D. So it's taken the C from just your E minor scale. So he's mixed and matched. And that's how I would be looking at it, that one. Another example, which wouldn't strike you at first as being in Dorian or being that or that you would describe as emotionally intense, is Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. Well, you can tell by the way we use our walk, I'm a woman's man, time to talk, music loud and women warm, I've been kicked around since I was born, but it's alright and it's okay, you may look the other way, we can try to understand the New York Times effect on man. Staying alive, staying alive. So that's quite interesting. E minor, D, but when it changes to the A, it has quite a dramatic effect, almost like you think it's a key change, but it's not. So if again, it's quite handy that this is in E minor Dorian, like the previous song. So there you've got the E minor, the D, in that A. So when you think a normal E minor scale would have an A minor chord, where this has the A. So the difference between is, instead of the C, it has a C sharp in there, and that just gives a different complexion, and you can hear it in that song. So there's another example of Dorian. Now another example is Scarborough Fair, which was done by Simon and Garfunkel. Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Parsley, sage, rosemary and thyme. Now that sounds very medieval. E minor, D, G, E minor, G, and there's that A. And it's that A that gives the song like a different complexion to what you would normally have, and it sounds almost medieval. And it's quite interesting that a lot of books talk about Ritchie Blackmore of Deep Purple and Rainbow fame is using Dorian, who, you know, I mean, Ritchie Blackmore, he dresses medieval and he plays a lute. So there you go. It shows you how it can have that kind of flavour to it. It can add that flavour to the song. That's why I think when the songwriter's writing these, it's got to know kind of what he's doing. Now, obviously a lot of people watch this channel for Queen. The Queen used Dorian. Take a step outside and I breathe the air and I slam the door. Leaving Home Ain't Easy. Now there's a lot of different chords that we could analyse this song to death because there's a lot of changes in there. But the beginning, A minor 7 to A. Take a step outside and breathe the air. So to me the beginning of that, you could say, was in E minor Dorian. So it's that E minor in this key to A. Now I just accidentally stumbled on that while practicing for this video. E minor A, So possibly My Sweet Lord. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, an interesting one that is worth mentioning, because if you look up online for a list of songs that are in Dorian, Elenor Rigby by the Beatles comes up in the list. In this, there's actually a whole forum of people arguing whether this is in Dorian or not. And look at all the lonely people. Look at all the lonely people. So it starts on C and goes to E minor. So if we were in E minor Dorian, then I wouldn't say that that was in E minor, because there's a C there which isn't in there. Elenor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where the wedding has been, lives in a dream, waits at the window wearing a face that she keeps in the jar by the door. What is it for? So C to E minor or E minor to C is to me simply in E minor. However, all the lonely people, where do they all come from? He does this thing, Paul McCartney, E minor 7 to E minor 6. So instead of using the C, he's using the C sharp. So to me, that little section could be thought of as being borrowed from E minor Dorian. That's my take on it when I look at that. Now this raises a question, and Paul in Lincoln, USA, who takes Skype lessons with me, keeps asking, do these guys when they write these songs know what mode they're in, or are they just using chords to randomly because it sounds good? Now what's interesting, when you're dealing with players like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, who are very technically gifted, I always seem to use them two as examples, there's obviously a lot more, they know exactly what they're doing. They're thinking in terms of modes and everything else. Someone like the Beatles, I think it's been quite famously put that when they were writing songs back in the 60s, you had like guys who were classical experts analysing the songs and coming up with all the technical jargon, as it were, for what was actually going on, and like using terms like cadence and what modes were being used and how it was borrowing from that scale and that scale. And the Beatles didn't know that they were the technical names. In my opinion, they had an amount of knowledge of chords and what chords were in what key. So for example, if you took something like the key of G, A minor, B minor, C, D, and E minor, and if you decided that, well, I tell you what, it sounds quite nice if I start on the second, you might not know that it's called Dorian, but you've discovered when you start on the second degree of the scale it has a certain feel about it. If you decided to start on A minor and use the second degree of the scale, and then you decided to borrow chords from the A minor scale, you would suddenly have a technique that you were using, that you'd kind of discovered for yourself, that you knew what you were doing. You might not know all the technical names for it, but in essence you are still using Dorian and all the different ones around it. So that's but with the age of the internet and education, everybody seems up on it. So to me now, when people are writing songs, they do kind of know all of this. So I hope that answers that question. If you have any comments, opinions, let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching.